Hey guys, Sebastian Gaming here. The Evil Within 1 and 2. I can easily say that these two games are some of my favorite horror games of all time, especially the original. Hell, despite the fact the original is a single player linear horror game, I have over 100 hours on it, and I went out of my way to 100% the game. Although I don't like being reminded of the trauma and pain I felt while doing so. At least I got my achievement. So yeah, we have the Evil Within 1 and 2, but there's something missing here. Ah, yes. This is the Evil Within 3, fellas. I mean, Sebastian is in the game, he's a robot now? Seriously though, the Evil Within needs a third game. Not just because I want more of the Evil Within, that's just a given at this point, but because there's so many unanswered questions and plot points that could easily be made into a third game. So if you haven't played the Evil Within 1 or 2, I'm just gonna let you know now that I'm gonna be spoiling a lot of stuff, so I recommend buying the games on Green Man Gaming before finishing this video. You can get them for a very generous price usually, and every purchase goes towards supporting the channel. Link will be in the description below if you want to get them. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. When the Evil Within first came out in 2014, one of the biggest complaints was its story. People found it confusing, convoluted, and senseless. The game takes place within a simulation called STEM. STEM being this hive mind, imaginary nightmare world being controlled by the brain of a psychopath. The psychopath being the Assassin's Creed cosplayer, Ruvik. Every single boss and enemy was relating to different aspects of Ruvik's mind. We had stuff like the Keeper, who was this safe head looking fella who is supposed to represent his secrets. Ooh, spooky. Even gameplay mechanics were relating to certain things about Ruvik's past, like every enemy being weak to fire because of his trauma of losing his sister and being horrifically burnt in a barn fire. He will never forget his sister, and to be fair, I don't think anyone else will either after playing the game.
What the fuck?
You play as Sebastian Castellanos, a washed-up detective who was dragged into STEM wirelessly on his way to a crime scene at Beacon Mental Asylum. The crime was actually real, but it also happened in STEM. I don't really know what's going on. Either way, shit hits the fan and you are thrown into this nightmare world where everything is trying to kill you. Sebastian isn't the only victim caught up in this horrific nightmare. He's accompanied by Joseph and Julie Kidman, who you're separated from almost instantly. They endure their own nightmare, and we actually get to experience Julie Kidman's with the 2 DLCs that were released later, but we'll talk about them in a bit. During your time within the game as Sebastian, you aren't really told much about his character. Instead, you learn about his backstory in these little journal logs that you can find. Needless to say, Sebastian was a pretty underdeveloped goofball in the original game with some of the dumbest one-liners.
Fire seems to work.
In his journals, we learn that he had a wife and a child. His child died in a house fire and his wife left him. I can understand why he's pretty quiet and secluded in the first game. There are a few twists and turns in the first game. Kidman ends up betraying Sebastian and accidentally shoots Joseph, but enough about that. The main game's focus isn't on Sebastian, so let's forget about all of this for now. The game is all about Ruvik and Leslie. I didn't mention Leslie earlier, but he was a patient at Beacon Mental Hospital who had entered STEM before and lived to tell the tale, or at least tried to. The kid's a nutcase and he speaks in repeated dialogue lines.
Losing our minds, losing our minds, losing our minds.
Him surviving STEM has connected him to Ruvik, and Ruvik is well aware of this. His entire aim is to use Leslie as a vessel to escape STEM, and by the end of the game, Ruvik succeeds. Well, at least it's implied he succeeds. You see him walking away out of the hospital at the end, and when Sebastian sees him, he experiences the same sound and pain he got from being inside STEM, causing Leslie to randomly disappear. This is how the game ends. There's absolutely no other explanation for this. As you can imagine, people were pretty upset with this ending. It left the game on quite a confusing note, one that left you wondering what the fuck had even just happened. I mean, I don't know, I kinda like this ending quite a lot personally. The 2 DLCs for the Evil Within expand a bit on this story and explain a few questions, like why Kidman ends up betraying you near the end, attempting to kill Leslie, but still tries to help you escape STEM regardless. Well, turns out Julie Kidman works for a shady organization called Mobius. No, not that. I said Mobius, not Mobius. Very unfortunate naming. She was sent by Mobius to get Leslie out of the STEM system, but the further she gets in, the more she sees Ruvik's influence over Leslie. And of course, she cannot let Ruvik escape, which is why she tries to kill Leslie. We see the same cutscene again, but instead from her perspective and what she sees. Oh my god, it all makes sense now. Wowee! There was also a 3rd DLC for the Evil Within, but it was after all of this had occurred, and it was just the gimmicky fun DLC that let you play as the Keeper boss. It was genuinely an awesome some DLC, and I actually have a video talking just about it, which you should definitely check out after this video. So after all of this, does The Evil Within 2 answer any of the questions left at the end of the original game? Well, I guess it answers some of them. Mainly it answers everything surrounding Kidman and Sebastian. Sebastian especially. The Evil Within 2 is his game. Unlike the first game, Sebastian actually has a goal in the sequel, and that's to save his daughter Lily, who had supposedly died in a fire, but turns out she's still alive and being used to host a new STEM system. So yeah, the guy has a purpose in life again, but at this point in the sequel, the guy is still completely broken. Hell, he even willingly goes into STEM again to achieve his goal in saving Lily. The man has absolutely nothing to lose just to save a loved one who he thought was dead. A lot of The Evil Within 2 is him being incredibly pissed off that Mobius even used his daughter for STEM and experiencing the trauma of his past experience in STEM from the first game. Because there's something in the lore relating to the fact that even if you survive STEM, there is a part of you still trapped inside. There's a section where a ghost harasses Sebastian, but this ghost only appears if you do an optional side quest, and she's supposed to represent his traumas. And doing this quest allows him to find the part of him trapped in STEM, and Sebastian sorts this trauma out by shooting himself in the face. It's cool that you can finish the entire game without doing any of this, meaning Sebastian could still feel the after effects of being trapped in STEM. And because of that, we don't entirely know what the canon ending is for The Evil Within 2. He could take care of his trauma in STEM and save his daughter, or he could not and still suffer the trauma left in the STEM system. Meaning a third game could be him going back to sort that shit out, but let's be real, that would be fucking stupid. So it's safe to assume The Evil Within 2 was Tango sending Sebastian off. The Evil Within 2 doesn't answer a lot of things from the original game though. Like, there's absolutely zero mention of Ruvik, despite the fact we see him walking away in Leslie's body at the end of the original. I guess it's not confirmed that that was actually Ruvik, but a lot of signs pointed towards it being the case. Hell, we still don't know what happened to Joseph. We are told by Kidman that he's still alive, but that's it. That's all the information we're given. Which is why we need a third game. There are still so many questions left unanswered. I refuse to believe that Ruvik is just living his life in Leslie's body, chilling out somewhere, and Joseph is just going on with his life without ever making an attempt to contact Sebastian once he got out too. Obviously, there would be a part of Joseph still trapped inside STEM. Honestly, I would love to see Joseph's perspective within STEM from the first game, just like we did with Kidman. There's so much they could do for a third game, and as unlikely as it is for a third game to even happen, I think they should make it. Use that hi-fi Russian Microsoft money, fellas. Come on, what are you doing?